Thank you for tuning in, everyone. This is Juan Cephas from iFit PD, and this is Lineup with Fit PD. I'm really excited today because we have Mr. Elias Gallegos. We also call him Pepper. And he has an amazing story to share with everyone. Every single cop needs to hear about what's going on with people that sometimes we don't understand, that people that are putting in work around our communities, and they're living in the underworld, basically. But you know what? I can't tell you the story. Pepper's here to tell you the story. Pepper, thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here, brother. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Not only do you have this incredible story, but you're also a minister. You're a leader in the community. You've been recognized by numerous different entities, and you're doing God's work.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you for being here. Elias, tell us a little bit about how is it that someone gets involved in, protecting a family, kidnapping,
sure,
and some of those things. What's going on in your life when you're young?
I can definitely share that. And it's going to directly correlate to my unhealed trauma as a child, right? So I have to premise that story with a very quicker story of being molested by my uncle for a long time. Latino community, Latino family, super ashamed. You don't share that. Some of the family members knew, but nobody shared. So I kept that ugly betrayal, that pain inside of me. And what I turned into a problem child, right? My father's a pastor. And so, after so many times when a person tells me, you're just a bad kid, you're the bad one of the family. Well, guess what happens? You become the bad one,
sure,
right? And deep inside of my heart, in my soul, I needed to protect myself. And so there's two ways of hiding, I believe. You either hide in the back or you hide out in front. And what I mean by that is I became that kid that was, you're not gonna mess with me. I'm gonna punch you in the mouth first. I'm gonna get in trouble at school the most so that everybody knows not to mess around with me, And while people thought, oh, Elias is tough, Elias is crazy, and I was scared, just a scared little boy,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
So, God created us as social beings, right? So I understand more than anybody why people join a gang, because we're looking for connection, right? We're as human beings, we crave connection, and when you start to lose connection in your life, is the beginning of a downward spiral in your life.
Yeah.
And so in the 10th grade, I ran away from home. I was living with a cousin at the time. And,
And this is in San Diego?
In San Diego. I was living with a cousin at the time. And I needed to kind of uphold that, like, Elias is crazy type of thing, right? Just living by that lifestyle. We didn't have any money. His older sisters had just recently purchased some firearms. And so in the 10th grade, I committed armed robbery. And man, I got caught within seconds. Like me and my cousin, we robbed some guy in Point Loma, and the cops were like, the vice was out there looking for Johns, right? And they spotted us right away, and we put up at the ATM. They were on us, So I went to jail for a year and a half, and through that process, nobody gets healed in jail, man. And through that process, I came out, and when my cousin went in, he had hooked up with some guys in jail, right? Long story short, I make it through high school. I graduate high school, and here's the kind of person I am, right? If you and I go out, or back in the day, if you and I go out and you're like, hey, this is my homie, this is my homie Tony. Well, guess what? I got Tony's back, like I got your back, regardless. So one day we go out to Tijuana, we go out to a party, and this is the first time I was like, oh, I didn't know how to party like this, right? This was a big money party, right?
Oh, right.
And I'm just a young kid. And all of a sudden, this guy who seemed to be in charge, seemed to be the guy with the money, gets into an argument with somebody next to him. Well, all I know is that my cousin invited me, and this guy invited my cousin, right? These guys, that's all I know. That's all. So my boss's name, we used to call him Mr. Burns, because he looked like Mr. Burns from the
Simpsons?
From the Simpsons.
All right.
That was Mr. B. He was really skinny and everything, right? Long story short, there was a big argument, a fight ensued, and I was crazy. I hate using that word, but in the sense, I just fought, right?
Okay.
And the boss, the person who would become my boss, noticed me fighting for him, I guess.
For him. Yeah, you're protecting him.
Protecting him.
Okay.
So the next day I get a phone call from one of my good friends who was also in the crew. And he says, hey, they're going to send a car for you tomorrow.
Car?
A car. And I go, and I said, I got to go to work. I got to go to work. He said, get in the car.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah. Yes. Like,
Okay.
Okay. So the car comes.
What kind of car pulls up?
It's a Crown Victoria back in the day. This is like, they're Crown Victoria.
Is this like the early 90s?
Yeah,
What
early 2000s. Early 2000s.
Early 2000s.
Yeah,
Okay.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Late 90s. Late 90s.
Late 90s.
Yeah,
Okay.
Brand new Crown
All right.
Victoria. Crown Vic pulls up, right? I was like, I get in. This dude didn't talk to me. We go. So I don't know what's going on, right?
Because the driver.
The driver and my boss.
And your boss. They're both in the car.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on because I don't know who he is.
You don't know that yet.
I don't know this life.
Okay.
I grew up in church. I was just a troublemaker, robbing people. I was just a troublemaker. I didn't understand this life. Okay. So we get in the car and we drive around. And I remember like we go meet some people, like we have a lunch and I'm just there. And the guy's not talking to me. Like I don't understand what's going on, right?
Okay.
But my friend who I loved, and I still love him, my friend, he told me get in the car and I trusted him. You know? Okay. And then I think we did like lunch and dinner and it was just meetings and it's just me being quiet. It's just me being quiet and just kind of, in hindsight, it was him having me have his back and just seeing what my reaction was to the talking that was happening, to the money that was being exchanged or whatever, you know.
Right.
And so at this time, I'm working at a child development center, right? I'm making like back in the day. This is gonna age me, right? I'm making like $1,200 a month, you know, full time, right out of high school. And so we're done for the day. We drive home. I get dropped off, and he pulls out this big thing of money. And he's like $500. I'll see you tomorrow. And I have to make a decision.
Right there and then.
And I was like, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. And for the first few days, I was just calling in sick. And then I realized there was a yearning to be important.
Sure.
There was a yearning to be loved, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
All my life I had been it makes me emotional because I remember for the first time in my life, like this is the first time I've actually talked about this moment in a while. I remember feeling wanted by somebody, feeling like I was important. And that's how it started, right? We had houses all over Eastlake, all over Chula Vista. And at first...
What do you mean you had houses?
So there was houses. There was the
connected with this man?
Yes.
Okay.
Where drugs would be dropped off, where people would be taken. Right? We had, and little by little, I'm learning the system.
Okay.
Little by little, I'm learning the system. And I remember my first job, and I was like, this is out of the movies. Like, because remember, like, I'm not into life yet, but I'm like, this is out of the movies. We're just kind of hanging around, and when we go party, I'm just watching his back and meetings and things like that, you know. And there's a phone call. Hey, there's a van. We got to go pick up the van at such and such place. And at this time, and all of a sudden, these walkie-talkies, like I've only seen walkie-talkies on the movies.
Sure.
These walkie-talkies come out, and then the AK-47s pop out, and I'm like, oh, okay. This is another, like, so I was introduced into the lifestyle very methodically. He knew exactly what he was doing in the sense of like, I knew what they did. I was involved. I was allowed to hang around because I think he just saw that the loyalty that I had. I would have died for that man. I would have died for him because he showed me a love that nobody had ever showed before, you know? And I think he saw the loyalty in me and wanted to see how far we could take that loyalty to him and his family. And so the very first job we did that I was involved in was we were to go and we picked up a van that had like half a ton of weed in it, right? And First of all, I had only seen weed in like a little plastic bag. Right?
Oh, right, yeah.
And so we get to one of the houses, we unload, and my first job was just, we weighing the weed, right? And this is how, like, and I'm going to kind of bunny trail it, but this is how, like, people have like a little side hustle in that game right there.
Oh, sure.
So you get like a half a ton or whatever, however much comes in, 1,000 pounds or 15, whatever comes in. And so as we're weighing it, I noticed everybody else has little baggies or red tape around their belts. And no one's saying, there's no talking. There's just weighing, and the main guy's just pop, 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 and then the vacuum seal, and then all this stuff, right? And so I talked to my good friend at that time. I go, what's up with the bag? He's like, oh, you rip off a little piece and put in your baggie. so you get a half a ton or 5, or whatever comes in, right?
Right.
If you're on the workforce or you're on the job, when you leave, you're leaving with like 2 pounds or 3 pounds of weed on your own, besides
your own,
right?
Yeah.
And so that was the side. That was like, I'm in awe, because growing up, and how old are you?
I'm 58.
58. Okay, so I'm going to be 50 next year. But growing up, I grew up on Miami Vice.
Sure.
I grew up on Miami Vice, and I'm like, what's going through my head? Like, I'm sure a lot of people, it's nothing new for them now. But as a young kid, opening the door into this lifestyle, I'm like, this is Miami Vice. What the hell is going on? First of all, what are you doing here, Elias? Like, your dad's a pastor. This is not like 1 pound. Like, I think the most I'd ever seen is maybe like a pound when we went to go buy the weed. But like, I had never seen weight like this. I had never seen AK-47s, and like, I had never seen things like bulletproof vests, like in the movies,
Right.
And so little by little, I was just put on that team where it's like, you got to go pick up the weed and bring it in, and then make sure nobody's following you. And there's procedures there. I mean, there's walkie-talkies. There's you're making loop-de-loops to make sure nobody's being followed. There's a decoy. It's boggling my mind, but at the same time, it's exciting because, again, there's a connection where there's a bunch of knuckleheads that belong to something, that belong to somebody.
Now, Elias, let me just pause you for a second. You're talking about these policies and procedures.
Yeah,
I'm going to call it policies and procedures.
Yeah, of course, that's what it is.
Where do the police come in to these policies and procedures? So, like, if the police stop you, if you see the police, if the police is in the area, what are your instructions?
So I remember the first time. So I'm gonna kind of jump ahead real quick, and this is why.
Sure.
Because I was so good at my job, I got kind of lent out to other people.
Okay.
There was a guy who was at the time he was the king of crystal meth in California. And he would hire me for like 2-day jobs just to go with him and stuff like that, right? And so I remember the first time I met him, we were working with him. It had come up that the cops were kind of looking at us. And so I asked my boss, I go, am I shooting the cops? Like, what's like my first, like what are we doing? Well, like, what are we doing here? Because I was so like 100%, I don't want to use that word like down for that, but so lost.
Sure.
In hindsight, so lost in that culture of like, this is who I didn't know who I was, bro. Like, that's the problem. If you don't know who you are, the world's going to tell you who they want you to be. Right. And it's usually not going to be to your benefit. Of course. So I remember asking that first question and asking, hey, if the cops come, do we just shoot them? Like, what's going on? No, you don't do, like, the policy was, we're going to go to jail and let the lawyers, like, we're going to go to jail.
We'll get you out of jail.
There's no shootouts with the cops. There's none of that. There's none of that stuff going on. None of that stuff. That was our policy. There's none of that.
No shooting cops.
No shooting cops, nothing like that. As a matter of fact, one time, me and my boss got pulled over right here in Eastlake by the lake. And I think we had like 300-400 pounds with us. Both of us had bulletproof vests and guns. And I'll never forget, that's the first time I had seen my boss nervous. And his leg was just shaking erratically. And I said, hey, stop, Mr. Burns, you're shaking, stop. Cops came, blah, 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 and they let us go. And I was like, whew. Like, that was like, yeah, our policy was, you're going to go to jail, you're going to go to jail. That's it. You're like, you're like, dude, you're not trying to add any more time to what you're going to get. Like, that's the rule right there. For us, at least. Yeah.
So now you're in the middle of this.
Yeah.
And what's the next step in your progression?
So the next step is this. Again, like the movies, there was a man from San Francisco who owed my boss, I think it was like $250,000. and kind of skip town. We get a call. I mean, again, I'm trying to struggle with like, first of all, I'm trying to struggle with like being in that position and not realizing how dangerous life was for me. We get a call and my boss is like, okay, hangs up the phone. All right, so-and-so's going to be at the Arco in San Isidro at whatever, doing a deal, blah, blah, blah. We're going. Right. And at this time, I was just on that team of counting and watching my boss's back when he went to the back. You know, I didn't have a gun. Nothing was given to me. So this was my test. There was a separate team for pickups.
Okay.
And when I mean pickups, kidnappings. And this is my first. So this is going to be my first kidnapping. My boss gives me it was a Beretta. I'll never forget. I love that. He gave me a gun. He goes, "You know how to shoot?" And I go, "I'll shoot somebody for you." You know, and he gives it to me. He goes, "All right." And then people are like, "Why is he coming?" Right? Because I didn't have there was nothing that I knew about the structure or the procedures or anything like that. But he, I think, knew that that I wanted to be in that life so bad, right? That I was looking for that. So we go, there's 3 cars, I'm in the van with my boss. And at that time, there's the guy, like, just like the movies, the guy, older gentleman, and in broad daylight in San Isidro at a gas station at like 2:00 in the afternoon, in and out, 2 minutes, pick the guy up, right? And I don't think I've ever talked about this in a while, in a long time. And so he's facing me. They have him on his knees facing me, and I have him by his neck, and I have the gun over the seat in his ribs. And my boss is just talking to him, and my boss is telling me in Spanish. And here's the funny thing: at that time, I didn't really know Spanish. So my boss, that was the running joke. That was the running joke, is that like when we go to Tijuana, that was the running joke, kind of like, Elias doesn't know Spanish. That was like the running joke, right? But I was so good at my job. So I remember my boss saying, "Make sure the safety's on." I know that's what it was. Make sure the safety's on. Make sure we just want the money. We just want the money. So he's rambling, he's screaming, and I remember I hit him with the gun. I pistol whipped the pop. And when I did that, everybody just stopped. And my boss looked at me and was like, I'll never forget. It was almost like when your dad looks at you like, "I'm so proud of you." Like that. Man, what that did to me, like, to make this man who I idolized, right? Mm-hmm. To look at me like, "I'm so proud of you," like, you know, because nobody else knew how to shut this guy up. And so we end up getting the money. Everybody gets paid, and everybody gets paid out, you know, and stuff like that. We go party, and little by little, because of that moment, I was on that team, and became one of the main leaders of that team on the pickups. Yeah, and then even other people would use me for pickups as well, like in that life, like. You don't say we're gonna go kidnap somebody. We say we're gonna go pick somebody up. I gotta pick them up, and that's what I was good at. I was really good at my job. I was really good at because by nature God has created me to be a protector, and so while I was using my gifts in the wrong area and the wrong format, that's what I am. I'm a protector, and so the enemy was deceiving me. I had been so deceived that I thought, this is my life. This is what I'm so good at this. People idolize me, and you walk into places and people, I wasn't even the guy with the money. I wasn't the drug dealer. I wasn't that guy, but I was the guy that people were, like, if I showed up, people were afraid.
They knew
who I was, you know? And there's something to be said that when you garner a little bit of, I don't want to use that word power, because I didn't have any power, but people knew who I was. When somebody knows who you are and you walk into, that's better than drugs, it's better than sex. You know, you get drunk off that people knowing who you are. And I lived off of that, you know, especially when other people would like rent me out, or I would go work for somebody else.
Sure.
Just to, "Hey, can you please come with me over here?" You know, I remember the first time I got into a plane, because we had to go look at a meth bar, like a meth lab, you know?
Yeah.
So we get into a little plane. I was like, "We're going on a plane?" It's like, "Yeah, we're going on a plane." I was like, what kind of plane are we going on? Ever been in a Cessna, bro?
Cessna, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's nothing fun about that. There's nothing fun about like turbulence every 2 minutes. And we're flying into the mountains, and you know, I was using my gifts for the wrong reason, but I loved the people that I worked with. I would have given my life for those guys, you know. I would, and I even still have a couple of friends that I still talk to. As a matter of fact, my ex-boss's family, most of them are saved now.
Saved.
Yeah, they go to church, they're saved. And it's a great testimony on that part, you know. But yeah, I went from, because of my ambition, or because of, again, the trauma that I had, that I yearned so much for a connection, to be loved. And then when you have this tight group of people where I had a problem one time with my cousin was getting bullied, and my friends the crew just heard about it. Like, well, let's go, let's go take it right now, you know, and we did. And it was my family. I have a brother my brother's in law enforcement. He's actually in administration, the jail downtown. And he was a pastor from the age of 18, but me and my brother were never close. We are very close now, but we were never close as when we were younger. And so this was my brother. This was my family. I would have died for any one of those guys. I would have taken a bullet for any one of those guys. And I was able to just walk away because I'm gonna tell the story. So I was just an angry person. I would shoot you just to show you that I like you know what I didn't like? I didn't like cholos, that because we were dressed like in like we were dressed like with Nautica back in the day. Nautica, we just
yes.
I didn't like when cholos would like look at me and think that they were better than me. So you would get one just for looking at me like that, right? And I was an angry kid. I was just full of hate and I'll never forget. I went home one day to my mom and dad's house, and I started arguing with my mom, and my dad, who's a pastor, started saying something to me. You know, you're not going to talk to your mom that way or whatever. And me, like, who are you talking to? Like, don't you know who I am? You know, one of those things.
Sure.
I went over. My dad is small. My dad's tiny. My dad is tiny. If you saw my dad is darker than this, and he's like this tall, right? My dad is tiny. You wouldn't know he's my dad. And I went and I grabbed my dad. I grabbed my dad, and I was about to, like, I just lost it, bro. And my dad said, "In the name of Jesus," and he put his hand out, and I flew back 20 feet. And when I say 20 feet, I'm not saying like, oh, Elias, are you sure you didn't stumble? No. From the couch to the big screen TV, something pushed me back. Something was not going to allow the man of God to be touched that day. And I'm just on my knees. And I realized what had happened, and my father runs over to me, and I just started crying because I'm dealing with the weight of, I'm gonna share something here. And when I talk about weight, not too many people know this. The first time I ever shot somebody was by accident. And because you want to talk about just weight that will kill somebody, we went to go pick up somebody one time, and I had already put one in the chamber. Most people don't fight when they get picked up because there's just too many. It's just overwhelmed. Some people panic, and then some people do fight. The person at this particular instance had somebody with him that had a weapon as well. So that person comes out, and the person that I'm putting into the car reaches for my weapon. And the weapon goes off. And I hit him in such a place that it looked like a John Wick movie. You know, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue. But because it happened so fast, so quick, and we were still able to get the job done, people thought that like, oh, and so guess what happens? Now I have to live up to that life. I have to live up to that person.
You now have a higher status.
Yeah. but the weight, like the weight of now I got to be even more stupid, right? Like not crazy. Like it's not even crazy. Not even the word. Now you just have to be more stupid. Now you have to be like. Now you really have to be the man, Elias. And it's like, but again, I'm a little boy inside of a grown ass man's body trying to deal with my trauma of being molested, and I have this family that loves me, right? And I think loves me, right? And that weight of living that life that deep down inside wasn't me. But people wanted it to be me because I didn't know who I was supposed to be at the time. How about that, right?
Sure, right.
And it just got worse and worse, So all that weight that I was carrying when I fell down on my knees, my father runs over to me and she says, "Mijo, you need to make a decision, Papa." He says, "You're gonna die. You're gonna die." I have a friend. There was two brothers that they had their own little crew going on. There's two brothers, the best guys. And one of them got picked up and they beat him up so bad they broke his ribs and his rib pierced his lung and he died. Like I'm like, I was one instance away from somebody doing that to me. For a while there was somebody looking for me, somebody that we had picked up. There was somebody looking for me for a while. And if it wasn't for my father and the prayers of my mother and father, I should be in jail for the rest of my life or dead. And I'll never forget, I went to go talk to my boss and I said, "Hey, I gave my life to Christ. Like, and I remember I had my Bible with me,
Okay.
And he was like, "All right, you're good."
You just said, "All right"?
Yeah. He said, "You're good." Yeah. And I firmly believe it was because I was so good at my job and so well respected at what I did that I want to believe that he loved me enough to like let me go, like to be cool with that, and that's how I was able to live that life.
At this point, how long had you been with your boss?
I think like 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, 3 years.
3 years. That can happen in 3 years.
A lot did happen.
Yeah.
I was actually able to meet I met my ex-wife through that. We have two beautiful, I love her because she gave me, she stuck by me during those times and she gave me two beautiful boys. And, but a lot of who I am now, is reflected in what I went through back then, even today, like when I drive in traffic, I never get bumper to bumper with the car. I have enough. I'm always hyper-vigilant, right?
So you're driving like a cop.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Yeah. Hyper-vigilant. I walk into a room. I know where the exit's at. I'm looking at the guy who looks like he might be in trouble, the guy who might be with that guy who's on the other side of the room watching this guy. Like, and people who have never been in that lifestyle, or if you're not in law enforcement to understand that,
right.
They're like, "What are you doing?" I'm just like, I'm taking care of myself. Like, and I don't know that will ever leave me. I would get paranoid.
Yeah.
I would get paranoid. It wasn't until, and I'll share, it wasn't until very recently I stopped carrying a gun with me until I started getting, until I really started to develop a healing procedure for my life. Until I went to Missouri for a whole month on a sabbatical to do EMDR therapy.
Okay.
To just get out of San Diego, to deal with my anxiety, with my depression. So while I left that life years ago, I never dealt with the trauma of being molested, right? And so and unhealed boys, little broken boys, grow up to be destroyed men.
Sure. And
while I was successful at a gym, while I was great at taking care of other people, I didn't know what it was like to take care of myself. I didn't know how to love myself. I didn't even know what that was till a few years ago, And so, like, when I tell you, like, if you ever saw me, I had a gun with me all the time and a bulletproof vest most of the times. And especially, like, after, like, 9/11 and all these things are happening, like, it wasn't because I'm trying to be somebody. It's just, like, the world is a dangerous place.
Sure.
There's people don't understand. There's bad people that want to hurt you for no other reason than they're just evil, And so it took a while for me to be like, you know what? I'm okay now. I'm okay. I could still be hyper vigilant. I could still take care of myself, protect other people, protect those around me. But I don't have to worry so much because I understand what it is to surrender everything to the Lord now and not have to worry about that. Because anxiety unchecked, and this is when we get into like mental health issues, right? Anxiety unchecked, depression unchecked will cause physical illness in the body.
Sure.
It will cause physical illness in the body. And I was constantly sick from just being, my girlfriend, my girlfriend now, when she would go, I'm going with you. You're not going alone. Why? Babe, you don't understand. San Diego's one of the, for sex trafficking, people don't understand what's going on, right? My girlfriend is a model. And I'm like, you're not going anywhere by yourself, and sometimes people have no clue of what's around them, right? Like, what are we doing most of the time? If you and I were to go to the store right now to go eat at Denny's, there's a family of 7 and they're just right. And that's how we live our life, right? We don't understand what it is to be present. Being present is an art form. And so we talked about this, we alluded to this earlier. Who would we look for? Or, when we're scoping something that we need to pick up, the guy who's not paying attention.
Right.
The guy who's not paying attention. We're waiting for him to make a mistake. And most people are walking around living a mistake-filled life, Now,
when you bring that up, I think about cops that are also maybe not paying attention when they're on the street.
Sure.
As you're doing your work.
Yeah.
What kind of weaknesses do you see in cops, and how do you know you can get away with stuff when in the past?
Yeah. So the first thing is a cop that is overweight tells me the cop is undisciplined, right? A cop that's overweight, it's going to tell me a lot about that person that they're if you can't take care of your body, you're not taking care of yourself upstairs, right? Or whatever you're dealing with upstairs is reflected in your body. Right. So a cop that's out of shape not saying that they're weak, but it is a sign of, it will show others, and it might be, I need to be very careful here. It can be perceived as weakness. A cop that doesn't take care of himself. You are a law enforcement officer that might be required to arrest somebody, or might be required to run into a house to save somebody, And so for us, we're looking at people that are disheveled, people that are overweight. For some reason, it's people with glasses as well. For some reason, right? That's it. But that might just be something else.
Bias.
Yeah, it just might be a bias, whatever. But yeah, first, the number one answer to that would be someone who's overweight, a cop that's out of shape. Yeah.
Should cops be in shape?
That should be like one of the highest goals is maintaining your discipline, maintaining your body. Like, the body's the temple that God has given you. Like, here's a scientific fact. Like, if you're not eating healthy, your brain's not working correctly.
Sure.
Right? Your brain is clouded if you're eating nothing but sugar all day long. That's why your body aches, because you have joint problems. Like, whatever you can do for yourself, you should be doing it, right? Even if you're not a cop, just people in general, but for law enforcement officers, when you have to chase somebody down, or if you ever have to chase somebody down, if God forbid, like we talked about earlier, if you have to go hands-on with somebody and you lose your breath in 25 seconds, in 15 seconds, like, what, we talk about like, I'm just juggling life. I have so much going on, right? And I get this answer a lot from officers. How come you don't train? Every officer that I meet, that I come in contact with every day of my life, hey man, where you train at? Oh, I don't really train. I used to train. Oh, how come? Life's too busy. No, it's not too busy. You just haven't prioritized it, right? I don't want to hear, like, that's what I tell them. You haven't prioritized it, because this is the problem. You'll get people that say, I'm just juggling life, man. You ever heard that? We've heard that. I'm just juggling. Yeah. Man, my life is just juggling life. We got to go from juggling life to prioritizing life.
Right.
Right. And so I can juggle 3 balls all day long, bro. Okay. But if you throw a 4th one in there, guess what? The 4th one isn't the only one that falls. What falls? They all fall. So if you're juggling life and you don't have room for margin in your life, what's going to happen is just one thing is going to take you over the edge. And that's when you start drinking as a cop. That's when you start, right? And it's like, if you don't prioritize your life, you're doing yourself you're doing your community, you're doing your job, you're doing your family, but most importantly, yourself a disservice.
Let me ask you this. What do you think is the problem with drinking? Because there are a lot of cops that's their coping mechanism.
Sure, yeah. The problem with drinking is it convolutes your mind, right? So here's what I know. I was addicted to cocaine for almost 20 years because of the life, right? So I told myself, okay, I'm going to stop doing cocaine. But you know what? Maybe I'll start drinking. Hey, man, drinking's not as bad as coke because drinking is legal and cocaine is not, right? It's just as worse, if not worse, right? Why? Because it's legal. Because it's legal, it's worse. Because, right? And let's talk about this, right? Why do they call it happy hour? Why do they call it happy hour? Because instead of a cop, and we're going to talk about this right now, and this is why people drink. Because nobody understands how to sit in their pain of PTSD, of trauma, right? And how do we sit in the pain? We sit in the pain to learn, right? So I'm a pastor, so I'm going to look at it I'm going to put on, like everything I look at is I put on a biblical lens. So the Bible tells us that the only reason we go through struggles, in the book of James says, so that we can be perfected in Christ, so that we can mature and grow in Christ. Okay. The reason you lift weights.
Sure.
So how does it work? You go and lift weights and you have a soreness. What's the soreness? The soreness is your muscle has ripped and now it's growing back bigger and stronger. Okay. That's what the Lord tries to do to us, right? As men, just speaking about men. We go through struggles to grow. But here's the problem. We go through a struggle, you're having issues with your wife because you're working overtime. Or you saw something, you had to shoot something, there was a shooting involved, or something happened, you lost a coworker, whatever the case is, whatever the struggle is. And because we don't want to sit in the struggle and go through the process of the struggle, we will self-medicate, whether with pornography, with more work. I'm just working, look how much I work. No, bro, you're not working. You're trying to not deal with the issue.
Right.
You're trying not to go home to mom or to wifey and deal with the issue. So we drink. You know what? So you know why we do that? Because in their mind, I just want to be happy. I had a tough day today, man. You don't understand. I'm just going to go be happy. You don't want to be happy. What you really are looking for is peace. What you really need in your life is peace. Because if you have true peace in your life, now it doesn't matter if I'm happy, sad. It doesn't matter what emotion I feel. If I have peace, which goes like this, now it doesn't matter what emotional wheel I'm on. Sure. Right? And so, is there anything wrong with drinking? In the sense of like, oh, I'm gonna have a beer. No, there's not. But when the drinking controls you, now there's an issue. When you can't just have one, when you're drinking to, here I'll say this as a counselor. When you have to drink because you're dealing with issues, that's a problem. I don't care if it's one drink or 20. If you have to have one drink to like, I need one drink to just like, I had a bad day, I just need one drink, that's a problem. And if it's not, it'll turn into a problem because I've seen it.
Absolutely. So what we need, it's a peaceful hour.
Yeah. What we need is to understand the law of reflection, right? Mm-hmm. So the Bible says, God tells us to be still and know that I am God. What does that mean? That means that when we have an hour of peace or an hour, the law of reflection, right? John Maxwell says the law of reflection is at the end of each day, I'm going to reflect on what I did right, what I did wrong, so I don't have to revisit those problems again tomorrow, right? But the problem is we talked about this looking in the mirror, right? When we look in the mirror, when I have to look in the mirror, man, Elias, you really messed up this today, man. You yelled at that person or you took that thing, whatever the case is, right? And then you have to really look at yourself and ask yourself why you did that. What was the trigger for that? All right, how am I not gonna do that tomorrow? Or someone who's dealing with addiction, right? Clean for 5 weeks, 6 weeks, you messed up and you did a bump, or you messed up and you had that beer and you're like, well, it was just one, right? The law of reflection is something that every man needs, especially cops, especially law enforcement officers, right? You have to be able to put your phone, you have to be able to fast your phone. I fast my phone every Monday and Thursday. Okay, I'm not on my phone. There's no social media, right? Because you get on it and what they call that doom scrolling. You just, right?
You're lost.
You're lost.
Yeah.
You become lost, right? And so it's really important to look. I'm not going to tell people to stop drinking. Like, I'm not going to judge you, right? I was an addict for 20 something years, right? But I'm trying to help them understand the reason 99% of us do anything is as far as drinking, pornography, or even spending so much time at work or whatever, right? Is we're self-medicating because you don't want to deal with the issue at hand. Right? And guess what happens? Because you don't deal with the issue at hand, you're doomed to repeat that issue until you deal with it. That's why I'm sure you got guys in the force that are dealing with the same relationship problem for 20 years. It might be 6 different girls, but it's the same relationship problem.
Same problem.
And it's not their fault, it's her fault.
Of course.
right? Because they didn't want to look in the mirror and say, maybe I am an asshole. Maybe I'm working too much, right?
Right. Yeah. Now, this reflection,
Yeah.
right? Oftentimes it's related to PTSD or some kind of trauma.
Sure.
And we don't want to look in the mirror because we don't want to admit that we are hurting inside.
Right. And I think that's a cultural thing, especially in the African American and Latino communities. Suck it up, get to work, right? And here's my contention as a counselor. 99% of adult men are dealing with some type of unhealed trauma. Just my contention, just what I've seen in being in the community, in dealing with law enforcement, in dealing with my nonprofit, especially with my work with combat veterans with PTSD.
Right.
Most men are dealing with some type of unhealed trauma. Here's what the neuroscience says, right? When we deal with an issue such as PTSD, right, we don't want to relive it, right? But we're forced to relive it when a trigger happens.
Sure.
Correct, right? So, for instance, let's just talk about let's say, there was a shootout, or there was an officer involved shooting, and all of a sudden, so the officer just tucks it away. He's seen his psychologist or whatever, but he just wants to just tuck it away. And why? Because they want to get back to work. I just want to get back to work. What are we talking about? I don't want to be on the desk. I want to get back to work.
Right.
So we don't really deal with it. But then because we don't really deal with it, what happens? Fireworks go off and we're panicking, right? Because we don't deal with the issue at hand, right? And that's just like an analogy of what ends up happening. So most men, we're taught for some reason to, okay, it happened. So what? Suck it up. Stick it down there. And no, that's not how the body works.
Right.
The body is body, mind, and soul. There is a synergistic energy between all three, right? Like we talked about this earlier. Like, have you ever been so scared that you got sick, or had so much anxiety that you make yourself sick and you throw up? That's because the body works, body, mind, and spirit. It works together. There's a great book called The Body Keeps the Score, where it will trauma that you have. Let me share this experience, why I believe in it so much. I was getting a deep tissue massage one day, and this guy went into my scapula from my armpit. So my scapula is in the back, and he hit my scapula from my armpit. So he went in deep, touched something. It was like a time machine. Touched something deep in my armpit. I went like that. I got rushed back to being a kid when a teacher, not my teacher, but it was one of the aides, like when you're a little kid, there's always a teacher's aide.
Teacher's aide.
Well, this teacher's aide used to always go into the bathroom when I would go take a pee. And he would just watch me. And he would always, and I always thought that was weird, right? But it did something to me, right? And so when that happened, and I remember he tried to touch me, I had forgotten about that. And then all of a sudden, I didn't want it. Like, this guy's an IFBJJ or whatever. He's a professional bodybuilder, but a masseuse as well on the side.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
So he hits it. And then I go back to being like, I see the teacher or the aide, and I'm like, and all of a sudden my body betrayed my thought process, in the sense, I say that because I didn't want to, but I just started weeping and crying and screaming 20 minutes straight.
Wow.
My body released it, right? And I'll never forget Jimmy said, "It's okay, Papa. It's okay. Just cry." And he held me, and he goes, "You know what that was?" He goes, "What happened?" He asked me what happened. I told him, he goes, "I experienced this a lot." He goes, and he's the first one that explained to me, as a masseuse.
Okay.
He's seen it. For men, a lot of men keep our trauma in our hips.
Okay.
But he's seen that before. There's a great book. So I highly recommend for your listeners to get this book called The Body Keeps the Score.
Okay.
The body never forgets, right? But we can try to forget with our mind and our thinking when we push it inside, I hope that made sense.
It makes sense, because I'm thinking, as cops, we suppress a lot of what we see.
Yeah.
And we see so much.
Yeah.
Probably 10 times more than the regular population, if not more. And we don't get treatment.
Right.
We have great programs for officers that actually pull the trigger.
Yeah.
But we don't extend it to everyone that maybe went to traumatic calls and didn't pull a trigger, but they saw things.
And I really believe that's because of the stigma. Because sometimes, because I've spoken to officers, right? When I work with my combat veterans with PTSD, my combat veterans will come in and they'll say, "Hey, look, I'm through the VA. I don't have PTSD because I'm trying to go into law enforcement, and if I have that, I'm not. There's a chance that they might not take me for the. And that's when I start to learn the ins and outs, right?
Right.
So if I come to your program, well, I go, hey, there's no paperwork, brother. I need you to get healed. Like I'm not worried about the paperwork, you know. And so I think when it comes to law enforcement, there is a stigma of if I say, because this is firsthand conversations that I've had with people. It's like, yeah, if I tell them that I have PTSD, they're gonna take my gun away. If I tell them I have PTSD, I might get put back on the desk. Or for the combat veterans coming from the military background or with a military background trying to get into law enforcement, there was a moment where I was told, like, man, if I had PTSD, they're not gonna hire me, you know. And so there's that stigma of like, I'm just gonna, as a man, push it down and move forward. Man, that works for a little bit, but you know what it's doing? It's inside your body doing push-ups, and it's going to rear its ugly head, maybe not in a year, but in 5 years, in 10 years.
During a massage.
During a massage.
Or when you are in a critical moment in the street where people need you to be focused, and you're having a moment.
Healing is so important. People don't understand. I don't know where we get that in this American culture of like, you know, be gritty, grind. I understand that. But if you want to, I'm looking for men to be whole. Like my purpose, my passion is for military and law enforcement personnel, especially those that are broken, because it's a very thankless job.
Sure.
It's a very thankless job.
It can be, yeah.
You know, and, you know, the cameras only come out when after the guy spits in your face, right? Oh, look what this guy's doing. Like and so my heart goes out to the law enforcement community in the sense that, man, you need to be at 100% to do your job, to be the best version of yourself, right? In that high end, like every day, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow as a law enforcement officer, right? There's no such thing as like a routine anything, right? There's no, you know, and so if you are not 100% mentally fit, so this is how I help build men in my program. We work on mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually on growth. Mentally, emotionally, physically. I believe that like the neuroscience will back me up. I just got back from a neuroscience convention a few weeks ago. Mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. If I can help you grow in those 4 aspects every day, every week, you can become the best version of yourself, right? And you need to be a Formula One race car, like tuned, ready to rock and roll. You know, there's a split second when someone goes in here, but they're going for their phone or their wallet and not the weapon, right? And if you're thinking about what happened yesterday or like something bad, and guess what? You're the one that's going to have to deal with it, you know, and the backlash goes on you. And so that's my passion is I want men to understand, or law enforcement people in combat veterans especially, that you don't go to the next level. You're going to stay at that level that you're at until you find healing, right? With your PTSD, with your anxiety, with your depression. You know, I was reading a stat that 1 out of 7 law enforcement officers worldwide deal with some type of addiction, alcohol addiction, some type of addiction, you know, depression, anxiety, PTSD, you know, and there's this stigma that just says, keep moving forward. And that needs to be wiped away. Like that needs to be wiped away.
It needs to be wiped away because if untreated, thoughts of suicide or other things pop into the head.
I was just reading a stat that said over 25% of law enforcement officers at one point in their career will think of suicide. That number's too high. That number's too, that we cannot have a number like that for you guys.
Well, we have a number, I don't know what it is these days, but it was 22. It went down to 20 military personnel kill themselves every single day.
Yeah. You know, and if people can just understand, like with my program, like it's so difficult you know, I'm gonna talk about this because I think it's necessary. I called the VA a couple times just to let them know, hey, I have a program that's free for your combat veterans that I'm gonna pay for everything, and I have a life group for them. They hung up on me twice. They hung up on me twice. You know, it's so hard. It's so hard, and I guess maybe that's because people, maybe sometimes it's too good to be true. You know, maybe you know, and you just but that's why I have the program that I do for law enforcement, you know?
Well, let me ask you this, Elias. You talk about the program, and I know that you have a law enforcement program within your jiu-jitsu school.
Yeah.
And, you know, being a fifth degree black belt and having your own school, and you always provide special deals for law enforcement, military. You know, it comes out every now and then, but there's always deals. What sets your training apart for like a law enforcement officer? Yeah,
that's a great question, because the last time I did a Google check, there was about 140 locations in the county of San Diego. Not gyms, not jiu-jitsu gyms, but like also including like a karate place that has someone that rents jiu-jitsu, right? Like 140 something locations in the county of San Diego that teach jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
Right? Now, as most of us should, or maybe we don't, jiu-jitsu was first and foremost a martial art for self-defense. But like anything, that's how the UFC started, right? And early on in the UFC, it was style against style, right? The Gracie family wanted to prove that jiu-jitsu was the best fighting style for self-defense.
Correct.
Now it's who's the better athlete, right? That's just what it is. There's rounds, all these things are happening. So as anything progresses, it sometimes tends to get watered down. I don't want to use that word watered down in the case of jiu-jitsu, but as it gets more popular, most, if not 95% of schools in San Diego, jiu-jitsu schools, I'm not talking about MMA schools, but jiu-jitsu schools, if it says jiu-jitsu, most people have a misunderstanding, like say law enforcement officer, and we could talk about this as well. You know, officer knows he needs training, so he goes and calls, I'm just going to the one down the street, right? And they walk in and it's reputable, a lot of hard training, but they're never going over strikes. They're never going over 2-on-1 situations. They're not doing any weapons training. They're not doing any, you know, are you getting in shape? Sure. Do you have some basic understanding? Sure. But the majority of these schools in San Diego are teaching jiu-jitsu for sports. There's a rule set. There's a round, there's 5 minutes, 10 minutes. There's a rule set. You can do these moves. You can't do these moves. You're fighting somebody your weight, right? And you're never going to get a 2-on-1 situation. You can't punch in sport jiu-jitsu. You can't strike. So what sets my gym apart and a number of other gyms is I focus solely on self-defense. So at any given time at my academy, you're going to have 2-on-1 situations. What do you do when we go 2-on-1? So we'll do, for my law enforcement officers, how to probably take somebody down. You and your partner taking somebody down. But then also, what if you're getting attacked 2-on-1, 3-on-1, 2-on-3? We do DTAC training every Saturday at 9 a.m. Weapons, blade work for my law enforcement officers. No other school in San Diego is doing that as far as I know. Every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, any law enforcement officer can come and train at my gym for free. Doesn't matter where you're at. And I specifically do that because I understand that some law enforcement officers are already training at a gym. They're already training, you know, at another place where they just feel comfortable.
Sure.
But I open it up so they can get a little taste of, hey man, I know you guys don't do any striking over there. And I'm not trying to steal students, but my passion is to prepare. You don't get what you want out of life, right? Like if you talk to a law enforcement officer, they're going to obviously say, I want to be prepared. You don't get what you want. You get what you prepare for.
Sure.
Right? You don't get what you want. I want to be ready. Well, how are you getting ready? If you've never had somebody throw a punch at you, if you never come with your rig and have somebody reach for your gun, how are you ready? You're going to freak the fuck out the first time I grab your gun and I take it from you.
Right.
You know, as a matter of fact, I was the first Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt to go to, was it Ensenada or Rosarito? I was the first Brazilian black belt to go to Rosarito and do a seminar. And the governor, bodyguards were there, happened to be there. Well, I was in the news, so they show up, right? And again, I don't speak Spanish. That's just always been a joke. I have a translator there, right? And so the bodyguards that were talking, and I go, ask them if they want to, can I show them some because I was showing sports stuff, right?
Sure.
I asked them if they want me to show them self-defense, and they're like, yeah. He goes, what can you do? And I go, tell him I'll take his gun from him, if he pulls it out. He goes, no, you can't. Like, then we're doing. So then the reporter comes over, what are you guys doing? I go, so they had to call their boss.
Okay.
They had to call the governor to make sure it was okay for them to be on TV, right?
Sure.
And I took the gun from him twice. And they, like, the first one he tried to pull it and I didn't let him pull it. The second one I said, pull it and I'm going to take it from you. And, and I'll never forget their eyes. Like, just, you know, if you're not training, if you're a law enforcement officer and you carry a weapon, you know, and we always advise our law enforcement officers to carry a weapon and then a blade on the other side. So if you're right-handed, your blade on the other side. And so if I reach for your weapon, you pull your blade. Like, we're teaching life-saving techniques on Saturday. So that's free. Friday, Saturday, Sunday to all law enforcement officers. I don't take a penny. You don't have to buy any gear. You just show up ready to learn, right? And what my nonprofit does every year for law enforcement is usually like at the 6-month mark or the 4th-month mark. We did it at the 6-month mark this year. So for the last part of this year, all law enforcement trains for free, right? And this is why I always hear, I don't have enough time or you're too expensive. I get it. But look,
Sure.
That falls back into what's your priority.
Right.
What's your priority? Look, man, if you're selling ice cream at Thrifties, you don't need to learn self-defense, probably for the most part.
Yeah.
If you're walking around getting calls to go save somebody or you're at a DV thing and like, you got to learn how to look, not even learn how to fight, just learn how to defend yourself.
Control people.
Learn how to control somebody crazy.
Yeah. Right?
Just so that you don't get hurt, so they can't hurt themselves, you know? Because what happens, they hurt themselves and gets in trouble. You do, because you couldn't take care of the situation, right? And so right now, any law enforcement officer that doesn't train anywhere right now can just come and train every day for the rest of the year for free, you know? And did I talk about my friend Sully? Did I talk about that here online yet?
No, we didn't.
Okay,
we didn't talk about Sully.
So this is, to your point, you know, why do I teach this way?
Right.
Why do I teach this way? I've been here in Eastlake for 15 years, you know, and when I opened up in Eastlake, I was part of the Gracie Humaita team with Master Horler Gracie, and that's the Gracie team that competes.
Okay.
The Gracie team that competes, you know. So I had the best kids team in all of San Diego for competition, and you know, building people to compete. And I had some law enforcement. I had a number of Harbor Patrol.
Okay.
And I'm okay to share my friend Sully's story because his story's out. He travels the United States. He was traveling the United States at one point, speaking to other law enforcement officers about his ordeal.
Okay.
He was a Harbor Patrol officer. Gets a call. Somebody was, if I'm not mistaken, just looking in cars. Somebody just, hey, there's a guy looking in cars with a flash or something. So
sure.
He pulls up, hey, and immediately the guy goes for his gun. Couldn't pull the gun. So then he pulls my friend's taser out and hits him, doesn't deploy, but hits him with it and burns his face. Then pulls the gun. There's a battle back and forth. And, you know, my friend had to take this guy's life because there was a battle for the weapon.
Now, Sully's not a small person.
He's a Samoan. Yeah, he's a Samoan. Right?
I just want to make sure that people listening understand
he's a Samoan.
What's happening here.
How many small Samoans you know? Right? No small Samoans. And if you're small Samoan, you're not Samoan. Right? Samoans, small, you know, he's a pretty big guy. He's, you know, a thick guy, you know?
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, you know, I'll never forget, I saw it on the news. I saw that there was officer-involved shooting, and then I saw him being wheeled. You know how the camera sometimes tries to get like the ambulance, and I saw them putting him in the ambulance. I was like, oh my God, what? That's Sully. And I'll never forget, he told me after it happened, he said, the only reason I'm alive is because the way you teach jiu-jitsu. And at that point, I made a decision that, again, understand where I'm at this point. I'm on the Grace Humaita team that focuses on sport,
sure.
Right? And they do like, they teach the self-defense stuff, but they also do sport. I made a decision to revamp my teaching methods. Because if I could save, I mean, not me, but if the way I teach help save one man, a law enforcement officer, how many of the regular people could it save?
Sure.
So while gold medals are great, I mean, look, bodies in motion stay in motion. So I'm an advocate for just moving. Man, if you could just get up and walk, you're good, right? But you train for your reality, right? I'm going to say that again. You train for your reality. So if you're a law enforcement officer and you're training at a place that only has a sports-minded rule set, how prepared are you for an altercation out in the field? You should be wanting to train for your reality, right? And so we put the gloves on, and it's like, even for my promote, like, so I'm kind of like in the community, I'm loved. You don't just like me. You either love me or hate me, right?
Okay, all right.
Yeah, like, I kind of like that now. It's either like F that guy or like, oh, we love him a lot. Because there's people that say, he doesn't even teach. There's people that will tell you, he doesn't even teach jiu-jitsu. Because I don't teach jiu-jitsu how it's being taught today. With the upside down. And that's aesthetically, man, if I could go upside down and that's great. And I'm like 240, bro. I'm going to break my neck, right? If you're 110 or 120, that's aesthetic. That looks beautiful. That's part of the jiu-jitsu tree, sport jiu-jitsu, MMA. So that's all part of the tree. That's beautiful. But here's the thing. People don't even know why they're teaching jiu-jitsu. And I would say that again, most people that have a gym don't know why they're teaching. They're teaching because they got fired from their regular job and they're a black belt. They're like, I'm going to open up a gym. Very few people are like, oh, my goal is to open up a gym. Very few people. I'm going to be honest. Most people will take anybody at their gym. Yeah, come on in. I don't. That week free trial, my son, my boy, I'm betting you to see if you belong here. I know who I'm going after as a clientele. I want law enforcement, military personnel, people that understand the importance of self-defense. And hopefully you never have to use it. But again, you don't get what you want, you get what you prepare for. That's why you get a lot of guys that like, and I've seen it, I've heard it, that they were training at an MMA school, they were training at this jiu-jitsu school, and they had to go hands-on, and because they don't have no takedowns, they got punched in the face like 5 times. Sure. Right? And it's like, and then you have to pull a weapon.
Right. Wrong answer.
And so just to answer your question, that's the reason I teach, because my brother who was able to share, he's like, the way you teach is the only reason I'm alive. And that's what I decided to go with, because if I could help him, I know for sure I could help somebody else.
Well, I know you help a lot of people, because one thing that I definitely want listeners and cops, everybody who's listening, to understand is that cops, we don't pick the time or the day that something's going to happen.
Right.
We don't know if it's one person or more.
Yeah.
We don't know what they look like, what their skill level is. Yeah. And we definitely don't know if they're bringing any type of weapon to this fight.
Yeah.
But we're expected to take on that fight.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a fair fight to me.
Yeah.
But we got to be ready.
Yeah.
So when you mentioned that, you do 2-on-1.
Yeah.
2 suspects on 1 person.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love it, because that's reality.
Yeah.
Pepper, any last words that you would like to share with the listeners, or more like specifically with cops and military that have to do with staying safe?
Yeah, it's going to be a couple of things. It's going to be, if you're dealing with any unhealed trauma, you're never going to be safe until you start dealing with that unhealed trauma. And I sincerely hope you heal from the things that you don't talk about. And the first step is starting to talk about anything that you're dealing with, whether that's in a life group, which I have every Saturday at 8:00, or with just your brothers. Because isolation, when we isolate, that's the beginning of our demise. Secondly, take advantage of the offer that I have of free training. The neuroscience is out there. Moving your body, sharing your traumatic story with other like-minded individuals will help the healing process. Train for your reality and be safe. You want to be the best version of yourself that you can be. And that starts with understanding mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Just simply ask yourself this question: who am I? Mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, who am I? and can I be better? That's it.
Thank you. I want to thank you for being here today. I think this message is a must hear for all law enforcement officers. I want to thank for everybody that's tuning in, to all the listeners. Thank you very much. Cruise Productions, thank you. And there will be more episodes to come, guys. Thank you for listening.